largest of these empires. I mean, let's think of British North America, which extends later on across to become the United States, Canada, then India, hugely populated, a British colony. Many of the possessions in Africa were British, including some very heavily populated ones. So normally one of the legacies of independence is to retain not just the borders of the state, maybe not just the name of the state, but the language of the colonizer. Now, one reason for that is, let's say India. What is the alternative to English as at least one of the official languages of India? Well, it would be an indigenous language. Which one? If you're going to impose, as the British tried, Indians tried at one point, impose Hindi, a dominant language in the south of the north, on the south, you had riots in the south. We don't speak Hindi, we speak English. We don't speak your crazy northerners thing. So it's not going to help to impose one language in part of India on people in other parts. So politically, a reason why, if you will, they retain the neo-colonial aspect of a colonial language is to avoid another civil war, or what's going to be the alternative language. Nigeria has 248 languages. Do you have 248 official languages? Not so. So just bypass that whole cauldron of disputes and make English your language. Back at your question, Paul, I think it's the question, how come the Brits were so dominant compared to all these other characters? Whole huge story. But I think some factors involved are the British were the first off the mark in the Industrial Revolution. So what you had, that combination of steam power, iron for ships and so forth, and textiles, that begins in Liverpool, Manchester, the Midlands of the British Isles. It spreads later on. But the British got an enormous head start from this Industrial Revolution. Secondly, the Brits happen to be, we all know, an island. What does an island mean? You got to have ships to go from even there to Europe, much less other places. So the British have always focused on maritime exploration and power as a source of who they are. Well, in the 19th century, Britannia ruled the waves. The British had the largest navy, and having defeated Napoleon in the Napoleonic Wars, France being a major contender for world power, the British basically ruled the oceans by the 19th century. They could go pretty much wherever they wanted to do. So, Industrial Revolution and its reflection in terms of having the world's largest and fastest ranging navy gave them an impact over others that was enormous. Thirdly, the British they were a Protestant country. And so what you had is a very large element in, again, the 19th century of Protestants who wished to join the Catholics in converting other people. So the Anglican Church, the Church of Scotland, the Baptists, the Methodists, the Quakers, you name it. I mean, Britain is sort of a congeries of all sorts of little religious groups, each one of which said, well, we're going to send missionaries out to those benighted natives, wherever they are, and turn them into people religiously like us. And that missionary impulse was, I would say, particularly strong in Britain, compared to more secularized countries, or countries such as Portugal and Spain, which were only Catholic. They didn't have the religious competition at home to produce a kind of competition for converts overseas. So I would say those would be three factors that help to account for the sun never setting on the British Empire, which in turn, as I say, results in the prominence of the English language. And of course, the fourth factor is the United States. It's not just the British who are influencing, it's the United States, it's our country. English is our de facto dominant official language. And so wherever the Americans go, you learn English. I have a granddaughter who spent a year in Denmark. I mean, she didn't, sometimes the conversation, she seemed to be speaking Danish as best she could, and the Danes were speaking English to her because, hey, it's an opportunity for us to practice our English. So at some point, the United States' economic, political, global dominance means if you want to get on the train, learn the language of the leading power in the world. So in a sense, the British lead to the Americans take off, and our language, it's not actually English, it's American, but small linguistics. Why don't we have a final question? Let's have one from